Hi all, welcome back to the John Deere B tractor restoration, and finally I've got round to dismantling the rear case off the back of the tractor that goes on the back there where those big pull gears are. I've never done one before, so it's been a bit of a learning curve, but they're fairly simple to do. Basically, you're looking here, this is the area that would be full of oil. It's sort of the oil reservoir is part of is round about where all the mechanism works. That hole there is basically the hydraulic cylinder and the piston there. So when the oil is forced into the back of that hydraulic cylinder at the far end, it moves the piston in and out, and via this crank here it moves the rock shaft, which is as you can see, there's the one square end and the other square end at the far end, and those squares would be connected to whatever implement or leverage mechanism that you had on them. And obviously there they recognise the two foot pedals that move the valve block. So basically when it's running, you've got the PTO engaged. Here's the PTO shaft, and when it's engaged and running, it will pump oil up out of that hole there, and that oil eventually, when the block's on the back, that oil finds its way into the block of the control unit, and through the magic of the valves, the oil is then forced back through this hole here, through a drilling that I think is in the casting here, down underneath the bottom of the tip it over, down underneath the bottom of the cylinder. I'm guessing this is some sort of hollow part, into the back of the cylinder, which then makes the piston move in and out. To be fair, this one seems in fairly good condition. There's not a lot of wear in any of the parts, to be honest. Usually a good indicator is the square drives on the ends of that rock shaft. They're usually well beaten up, but this one, they're in good condition. I don't think it's seen a lot of work, this power lift. This is your basic power lift model, nothing fancy. It's not got any sort of selective control whatsoever. That's your oil pump here. There'll be two gears inside that. I have had one of these to bits in the past. I had an oil seal leaking, so I did take one to bits, but I've never actually had the selective control. The control block, the basic control block of the power lift to bits. So yeah, so that's your oil pump, two big gears, and obviously this is your power shaft. And boy, has that one got a twist in it. Some of you all know how that happens. It's been running a big inertia type machine, such as a what we call in this country a pasture topper. I think you guys in America call them bush hogs. And for some reason or other, it's been stopped sudden, and they all have a lot of inertia in them, these machines, because of the big spinny blades. And what's happened is that eventually, maybe on a time or two, it's eventually just put a twist into the power shaft. The way to get round that is to use a overrun clutch type power shaft. I have one up here. Let's pick it up. It would sit like that, and when the thing's driving in the correct drive, it drives, and when the machine stops, it's allowed to spin back over. So it's like a overrun clutch, that's what they're called. But this one obviously hasn't had one on, and it's put a lovely twist in that PTO shaft. I have two spares here that I found, I bought. There's one there, there's one there. So here's the shaft end, much better one, that one, and this one here. I reckon this is a Model B, this one. I'm not too sure what that one is. It's a bit thicker gears, a bit different on this end. So the shafts are both the same, so I'm not too sure what they are. But one of these shafts will be going back in to replace this twisted one. So the plan is to finish stripping it down, and then I shall I'll do my usual thing, give it a shot blast, get some paint onto it. I'm probably not going to be able to paint inside that one, but to be fair, because the oil sits in there, it's preserved it quite well. So I probably won't. I'll probably leave that red in this situation. So up on the bench, this is basically the valve block. As I say, I've not had one to bits. I sort of understand how they work. It's just a very large, what we would now call in the modern day spool valve. Just a large version of one. Where this has a bit of a clever trick in it is that obviously it resets itself. So when you push the foot pedal down, depending on what position the valves are in, will lift it up or lower it down. So basically it's sort of whichever way it is in. So if it's I'm going to lift it up, the conrod, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure the conrod will come out. There's a button here, this button, that button there is on a spring, and when the conrod comes out, moves out, it pushes this button in against the spring, which in turn pushes a latch release, and the whole mechanism just clicks around one. Here basically there's the cam, this cam thing here. You can see the cam on the top, and as it releases, it clicks round on this thing bit here, and so it always resets itself. So the lever comes back up, your foot pedal comes back up, push it again, and with the weight of the machine, it'll go back down. Now, there's various valves and springs on here. These valves are all a bit like the valves you find in an engine. They've all got a valve seat on them, a valve head on them. There's not a lot of wear on them. There's a valve seat there, that's in good nick. But what I'll probably do is just quietly lap them back in, just to make sure. They've got a screw driver slot in the back, so you can just screw them, put them in, and lap them back in. So yeah, so basically what happens is you've got your oil pump running, and the oil is being forced up through this hole here. Now this hole, in the bottom of this hole, is a split, so you can either have the oil going through. This is where the valve up and down valve sits. Sorry, that's not the right word, but that's basically that when you want it to move, this is where the valve sits in there. And this is the this hole here is where the oil is forced back through, out of, and forced into this hole here, and which in turn works the piston. But when it's running and you're not obviously when it's running and you're not using the lift, the oil's been forced down this hole. It bypasses this valve here and goes through the lid in the bottom of here. I'll get the torch. That unit, that there, difficult to show it really, where that is. There is the pressure relief valve. So the oil's pushing past the pressure relief valve all the time until demand requires it to then go through these valves here and back out through obviously a cast hole, and it comes up here and feeds the ram. But as I say, where this one's a little bit cleverer than well, it's not cleverer than a spill valve, but it automatically resets itself every time the piston cycles. So once it's in, it resets itself, and once it comes out, it resets itself. Yeah, so that's my understanding of it anyway. That's better. You can see now. Ha! So yeah, it's in fairly good nick. I don't know if we can see this valve seat. With the valve seat there, there's the little hole there is what they call a valve guide. Now, if it's worn, you can remove that. This one seems okay, but just before that valve guide is an actual valve seat, and the valve sits up against it, and that's what mainly controls your oil flow. So again, I'll clean these bits up carefully. I think the first course of job is to actually give them a steam clean, and then I'll shot blast what I'm going to repaint. I think I might just leave this inside red again. As I say, it seems to be well preserved because it's been in oil. I'll clean up all the various bits and bobs. It's obviously had a bit of grit in it at some time. It's had a bit of water in it. One or two of these cams are a little bit pitted. I think they'll be fine. And then we can get it all built back together. Get that fresh PTO shaft in, and then we can get it bolted back on the back of the tractor. I always thought that they had a leather seal for a seal on the piston. I don't know why I thought that, but this they don't. It would seem that there's a piston, and this bit here is actually a rubber neoprene type hydraulic seal. It's a bit hard and dry. I might see if I can get another one. I probably can get one. We fortunately in our local town have a rather large company that produces seals and various O-rings and stuff, and hydraulic ram seal, so I know the guy down there, so I might just go down and see what he can do. You never know, there might be something on his shelf somewhere that'll fit it. So yeah, but there doesn't seem to be much wear on the piston. There is a slight mark there, I don't know if that's showing up. You can just see this mark, so something's obviously gone through it. It goes right through, so it's had a bit of grit in it. But it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So yeah. So there you go. That's what we're on with tonight. Get that stripped down, finally finished off, and roll it back together as soon as. The oil that's in them is engine oil. It uses the same weight oil that you put in the engine. So I mean, I put 30 weight oil in these engines, so you would put 30 weight oil in the cylinder block. I think if you were to put hydraulic oil in, it would be a bit too thin, really. You just need something a bit more robust. So, in fact, actually, I have one of the tractors I put the oil in that goes in the back of our modern tractors, which is a 10W30 weight oil, so it would be perfectly fine in that. It's a bit cheaper than 30 weight oil. So yeah. Okay then, thanks for looking, bye.